Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is said to have many emotional moments in this film by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, what's really great about Episode 9 is that we do know that JJ will be changing many different elements of the characters of Kylo Ren and Rey in this story, and will also be providing new ways of using those two characters together on the big screen in Episode 9 in comparison to how they were used in both The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the concept art descriptions, this is where things begin to get very exciting for the characters of Rey and Kylo Ren. Now, specifically, a description of both Kylo Ren and Rey standing in front of each other during one of their Force Bond sequences, where it's described that both Rey and Kylo appear to be in two different environments. It's described that Rey is inside of a cave, where Kylo is inside of his chambers, where the scenery consists of two different environments, hence foreshadowing the flash fights. The next describes Rey walking closer to Kylo Ren and resting both of her hands on Kylo's shoulders, where she is begging him to turn back to the light, where it's said to be a sequence in which Rey mentions his mother Leia, and that she wants him home. It's said that Kylo sheds a tear when Rey is bringing up his mother, where it's described that he is still resisting the temptation during conflict of turning back as Ben Solo, where Rey is described to say, if not for Leia, then do it for her, and that they can. It's said to be a scene in which Rey opens up about her feelings toward Ben Solo, where she is also said to shed a tear, where Ben eventually wipes it off of Rey's cheek, where Rey then hugs Ben as he begins to disappear, as the Force Bond ends. So I want to go over a couple of parts about all of this, obviously, because I think that we can see now what the weak point of Kylo Ren really is, and it all goes down to, of course, General Leia Organa, or just Leia, of course, Ben Solo's mother. So we've seen this as a great example in The Last Jedi, and now J.J. Abrams is going to be exploring that weakness within Kylo Ren in greater depth, which I think is a great move. Now, in The Last Jedi, we've witnessed this before our very own eyes, where he was about to blow up the Radish ship, and he just could not go through it after feeling that his mother was on board in the control room. So, now in this scenario, we have both Rey and Kylo Ren in a romantic setting, and/or in a romantic Force Bond, if you will, where Rey is actually exchanging her feelings toward him. She's starting to open up toward him at a certain point in time in the scene during one of their Force Bonds, where she's resting both of her hands on Ben Solo's shoulders, begging him to come back from, of course, the dark to the light, and to return as Ben Solo once more. And you can really see how it hits the character, because it's explained that he eventually sheds a tear after Rey mentions that her mother, or his mother I should say, wants him home. And that's the whole weak point, right? We do know that Ben Solo's mother, General Leia, is going to be a big indicator in this movie toward Kylo Ren and exactly where he's going at the very end of the movie. And I think that this is going to be a very interesting piece by JJ on how he's going to utilize these two different characters on the big screen, and exactly, how the Force bonds and how these moments in between these two characters are really going to work. Now, the other sequence that I do want to go over is where Ben Solo is actually resisting the temptation to turn back to the light side of the Force, where she actually eventually starts to cry and sheds a couple of tears as well, where he wipes them off of her cheek, and that's where Rey eventually hugs Ben before he begins to vanish once the Force Bond comes to an end. So like I say, guys, we do know that J.J. Abrams is really evolving the idea of Force Bonds and exactly what it's going to do, and the type of scenery that J.J. is going to use when it comes to the Force Bonds. You guys may recall that in The Last Jedi, when we look at the Force Bonds, we only see, one environment for Kylo and one environment for Rey at a time, not at the same exact time. So now in this scenario, basically JJ is showing us a nice profile view of Rey in a cave, and then we have Ben Solo in his, over in his quarters or his chambers, whatever have you, on board of a First Order finalizer or on some Star Destroyer, where the screen is going to appear to be split between two different environments. And I think we saw a great example of this in, of course, the art book of The Rise of Skywalker on the cover, where Rey is on a lava world and Kylo Ren is on a different world, where they're both actually clashing lightsabers together, which is, of course, the flash fight. So this is most definitely a foreshadowing of the flash fights to come and exactly how they will be working toward the third act of the movie. As for the feelings of Rey and how she's opening up toward Ben Solo and how Ben Solo Kylo gets emotional when she mentions his mother, General Leia, and how this is going to be a very emotional moment between the two and a very romantic moment between both Rey and Kylo. It really does bring one to question, are they really going to be the new Han and Leia of the sequel trilogy, or is it going to be something completely different than we've already seen in the Skywalker saga? Something tells me that we're going to get a little element here of Romeo and Juliet, where one of these characters are going to die. And I don't know why I believe this, but I feel like that one of these characters really are going to die. There's a lot of hints and or indicators out there that either Kylo and or Rey is really going to perish in this movie by, some form of, let's say, for example, circumstance or some kind of act that happens at the very end of the movie. Whatever have you, something is happening. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.